In the last video, I showed you how to make the upper window assembly for this 1929 Model A. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this lower cowl piece. Now that we have the upper window assembly done, we're going to take this template and make the lower cowl piece. Each edge has to have a different function done to it. Down here, we're just going to break it over. It'll be a straight break. This side will have a step bead. This will be broken, but we'll have to do it by hand, and so will this one because it's on a curve. Once I have that done, depending on which side I'm working on, I'll have to stretch and shrink each side depending on what shape I need. At the top on these Model A's, it's concave, so it sinks in. However, at the bottom, it's convex, and it's a weird transition that goes concave to convex on these particular cowl pieces. Now that I have this lower section broke, I'm going to use what's called a wood buck to fold these ends over. Not this side, because I'm going to use a bead roller to do that. Now, what I created, I just used some 3/4 inch plywood. You could use MDF, either way. Any wood just about works. The biggest thing is make sure you have two matching sides. So now that I have my buck in place, I'm going to basically sandwich and then I'm going to put it in the vise to hold it for me. And before I tighten it too much, I'm going to just final check just to see, make sure everything's lined up like it's supposed to. And it looks like we're good to go, so I'm going to tighten it up. Now, since this is aluminum, this will bend over very easily. So I would recommend with steel, you use more clamps across the top because it's going to work hard and really fast. So with aluminum, I don't really have to worry about it. I'm just going to use a regular body hammer and hammer these curved sections over and fold it over, and this part will be done. If you'll notice it's wrinkling, that's okay. That actually needs to be shrunk in the shrinker. Once I have it all folded over, I'll shrink that up, and that'll get rid of that. This is where a lot of people start to panic and start to stress out. With these wrinkles here, don't worry about it. The shrinker will get rid of these. And that will make a nice, smooth, flat edge like you want, because you're going to want a flat edge. I'm going to change this just a tad. It'll suit me a little bit better if this was pushed this way a little bit. Okay, that gives me a better edge. Now I want you to notice something. This edge is not wrinkling. This is a good indication what's going to have to be stretched and shrunk. This edge is going to have to be shrunk because that's going to give it the bow on this side. This is going to have to be stretched to give it the concave appearance. There you have this particular piece. We're not quite done with it. I'll show you what we have to do next, but as you can see, it's real close. These are just Lancaster shrinkers and stretchers, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to each piece. Like I told you before, with these wrinkles, we need to shrink that. So I'm going to put this in here and lightly shrink it down. That's going to give me a nice flat edge to work with. Now, you can see that it has gotten rid of the wrinkles, which is good. That's exactly what we need. However, by doing so, it has also caused it to act very similar to a stretcher because of the way we bent it and the way I did it. So by using the shrinker, it will fix, if you can see that concave action there, it'll fix that and straighten the panel back out. All right. Now, that's nice and perfectly flat. The next part that we've got to do is we've got to stretch this to give it that concave. And for that, I'm going to use this stretcher. Now you'll probably ask or wonder, why do I have a long handle on the shrinker and a short handle on the stretcher? Well, it's just a personal preference. That way, if I have something that I don't really need to put a lot of force on, this will kind of help me limit myself. Because with a short throw like this, you can't put as much as with the leverage you can do with this. And so that's why I have that. And I can interchange them. That's doing what I need it to do. However, I think I need a little bit more force, so I'm going to swap these out. See if I can't get a little bit more bite on this. Yeah, it's working a lot better. And you have to be careful that you don't go too fast and too much, because this stretcher will actually rip this aluminum. Alright, so that gives me that concave. Now we have a little oil can here. And so what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to put this bead in it, and then I may actually shrink this center section to kind of cause it to bow, and that should push this lower section out. If it doesn't, one thing I can do is I can shrink this side, but in the past what seems to work for me is put the bead in it and then kind of shrink this area right in here to give me kind of a convex panel at the bottom. Here I've got my Mittler Brothers bead roller, and I'm going to put a step bead over this edge right here. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to line my mark up to the bead, and I'm going to close it down. Now, once I have that done, I'm just going to run it through there, carefully keeping that line where I need it to be. If you'll notice, I ran over this edge, and I didn't really have to do it. I just decided to go ahead and do it because I can hammer this, or well, on this I can just bend it back down. I'll hammer it smooth on both sides. But if you'll notice, it gives you a beautiful 1/8 inch step roll. I still have an oil can here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this lower section instead of this edge right here. That way it'll leave me with a flat edge. But if I shrink this just a tad along this bottom edge, that will put the convex shape on the lower part of the panel, and that will give me the concave to convex shape that I need. And again, another thing I could have done, I didn't do it this way, is I could have put this bead in it the very first thing, then I wouldn't have had to roll that. But you know, it still looks good, and once I flatten this edge, you'll never know I did it the other way. Alright, I'm back with the shrinker and stretcher, and like I said, I'm going to shrink this edge here. Actually, I'm going to stretch this edge here, and I'm just barely going to do it enough to straighten the fold. And that takes care of that. And then down here, I was going to shrink this anyway. And here I think I'm going to use the short shaft here. That way I can't put too much pressure on it. But by putting just a little bit of shrink in this lower flange, let's see what that did. Alright, we're still a little bit of oil can here. So Alright, what's cool is one thing you can see or feel when you're doing a shrink or a stretcher, when you have an oil can effect and you start shrinking and stretching and it automatically pops up, you know you're on the right track. Took me a long time to realize that. Alright, I'm going to shrink it just a tad bit more. Yeah, that's good. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink it just a tad on this side a little bit more. Oh yeah, that completely got rid of the oil can, and it kept my flat edge on this side. So well, that get rid of the oil can. I still need to put this curve to basically match the contour of this, so that will finish out the shrinking and stretching and give me the desired look that I want. Keep in mind, any of these processes will work for replicating a stock piece. Matter of fact, a lot of the work that I do is making pieces that you can't buy anymore. And oh yeah, yeah, that looks good. And there you have it. That's the you should be able to see the concave and convex in there. And basically what will happen is I'll make the other side and attach them to this part of the window assembly, and the next video I'll show you how to do the top cowl.